Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I wanted to share some of the things that I hope New World does in the future, especially since we have a week to go till release. I'm really excited for it. I just wanted to share my wish list for New World. And if you guys have anything else you would like to add, definitely write it in the comments. I would like to see what you guys think. The first thing I would like to start off with is level scaling, mainly in the PvE side of things. Something similar to what Guild Wars 2, Star Wars The Old Republic, or even Elder Scrolls Online has, where it gives you the freedom of being able to go to any zone at any level you want and be able to enjoy all the content that the zones have to offer. And by content, I'm talking about, side quests, main quests, all that stuff. So if you decided that you wanted to do just pure only main quests and go from zone to zone, you can have that opportunity at any level. And that was the biggest thing that I really loved about Elder Scrolls Online and also Guild Wars 2 was that I was able to enjoy any content I wanted at any point in time because level scaling always matched you up somewhat to what that zone is. The best part about level scaling, especially that I noticed from Star Wars The Old Republic, is that once I got to max level, I was able to go back to low level zones and be able to do some of the side quests that I missed. So this is the one thing that I've been thinking about when I was playing during the closed beta. I started leveling up. I got to about level 40 and I started going back to low level zones because I was more familiar with that area. I knew where all the materials were to gather. I knew what kind of animals to hunt. But then you realize that the levels of the mobs are very low. Like they'll be like level 3s, level 7s, stuff like that. So the mobs, most of the time when you walk up to them, don't even realize that you're there. Like they try to ignore you or you just one-shot them. So like it just doesn't really add any extra like feeling of challenge at all. And this is the main reason why I like level scaling, because it would make it awesome for when you're level 60 and want to go back to low level zones and maybe help out a friend that just installed the game for the first time. You can go back and revisit old things while still having somewhat of a challenge, So that's the main reason why I like it. The next thing I would like to see is a easier fast traveling system. And by easier fast traveling, I just mean for it to be a little bit more obvious. Like let's say if you're out in the middle of nowhere, if I was to click on trying to like teleport to the nearest town or something, it should just let me do it if I have the ads off. But since it doesn't allow that, most of the time I was either having to travel to my house, which has like a 4-hour cooldown, or I'll have to waste extra ads off just to be able to go back to the home, reducing that cooldown back to 0, then teleporting. At least that's the realistic way of like what the devs planned you to do. But I was getting around by simply making campfires and then just killing myself in the middle of nowhere to teleport to the campfire that was closest to the town that I wanted to be at. And that obviously is not what the developers planned on you doing, So I'm expecting something like that to get nerfed or maybe even them implementing some way to like restrict that or make it very expensive to repair items or something. They're gonna nerf it in some way. So instead of having no options to get around easily, how about just letting us teleport wherever the hell we want at any point? So if I was in the middle of nowhere and I wanted to teleport to the nearest town, just let me do it. Instead of having me exploit the system in order to get to the nearest town, you know what I mean? And I know what some of you are thinking right now. Oh man, you're lazy, you don't want to walk or whatever. But think about the complete waste of time of having to walk to a location for a quest. You finish the quest and then having to trek all the way back to the nearest town. That's a lot of time wasted. And I'm definitely about that life of exploring and doing all that stuff for the first or second time. But when it's your 100th time going from town to town to do a certain objective, like that shit gets tedious. So it would be nice to see an easier way to fast travel around. Another thing that I'd noticed that was missing from the beta was more filter options in the auction house. Like for example, if I was looking for a certain type of stat on a headpiece or the chest piece or something, they didn't really have that. So you had to manually look through each individual item in the auction house to find the thing that you were looking for. That was super tedious. So I'm hoping that this is something that they patch in eventually. Another thing I would like to see is more reasons to explore the world, whether it be trying to find Easter eggs, figuring out puzzles out in the world, or maybe even just finding random treasure that are buried in a cave or something. Genshin Impact did a really good job of this, of making you feel like the world was like had so much to discover and so much to find. And that was like the biggest thing that I really loved about that game, was just the pure scope of just exploring. And that's something that I hope to see in New World as well. Some incentive to explore more, other than just going out and just finding random trees that you find everywhere. You know what I mean? It would be nice to also see just random quest givers out in the world. Like, you know how it was in like Skyrim, where you're just walking down a path and you'll randomly stumble upon like some lady that's desperate for help and is asking. It would be nice to see that. That way it could just make the open world feel more alive. Another thing I would like to see is easier transferring of items from town to town. Currently, the system that they implemented in this game is your faction needs to own each part of the zone in order to transfer items from one town to another. The problem with this system is that you'll have factions that are very one-sided. You'll have a lot of people that are joining one type of faction because they are the popular faction or the biggest PvP faction. And it's going to get to the point where this system is only going to be used by one or two factions at the most. Instead, I wish that they made a system that was more in line of what Black Desert Online offered, of actual shipping of items from one town to another. What would be a nice little spin to add to New World is to have a system like that where you can ship items from one town to another. I mean, this is a game made by Amazon, right? But also, let's say you're not a part of the faction that the town that you're shipping from is coming from. I don't know if I made sense there. Maybe it would be taxed a little bit more, or maybe be a little bit more expensive to ship items from that town because of you not being a part of that faction. You know what I mean? And another really cool thing that could come out of this is, what about if they implemented some kind of PvP event with this, where let's say you can have like an expedited service that comes even faster than normal, but it's like a chariot that actually moves from one town to the other, and players can come in and try to rob your chariot, basically. Like, that would be pretty cool, right? There would be some kind of incentive to PvP during situations like that. I know people wouldn't want to risk their actual stuff, but I was just thinking about this at the last second. So I think that would be a pretty cool little concept. Another thing I would like to see is a mini-map. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, just press M and you open it up and you see the map. But after pressing M 700 times to verify where you are and where you're going, it gets a little tedious. So it would be nice to have a little mini map just to see what direction I'm actually supposed to be moving. That way I don't have to constantly press M a million times to verify where I am. Just a personal preference. Another thing I would like to see is musical instruments in the game, like being able to play like harps or guitars or drums, or maybe even having like the ability to like synchronize with other players. That would be pretty badass, to like form like a little band and stuff in the towns. Maybe even put a little tip jar on the ground so that people can tip you while you're playing there. Like, that would be sick as hell. I just think about like all the little role-playing things that you could do in this game, and this is what gets me really excited about New World. So thinking about a concept like this and implementing it the way I just explained would be an amazing extra reason to live in this game. You know what I mean? And this is the biggest thing that I really loved about Black Desert Online, is because it had that. And also Final Fantasy XIV has that. There's a lot of games that have the whole musical instruments thing. And the coolest thing about it is just being able to, like, you can play covers of real life songs, or you can make up your own music, you know? So it's really cool. And then I would hope to see something like this in New World. Another thing that would really bring the world to life is having more things to do in the town, like mini games, for example. Like, imagine having like a table where you can sit down in the bar and play like blackjack with an actual player, or playing like chess, or even that finger knife game. I don't know what it's called, but you know what I mean. Maybe even Russian roulette, you know, like that would be sick as hell. Like, and then having the ability to maybe even bet during these little matches where you can put down a 100 gold, or like shit like that. Like, it would just add that extra layer of making this game feel more alive, especially in the towns. Who knows, maybe if it could even become some kind of esport within the game where you'll have people crowding around watching like a couple dudes actually play like the knife game or something, and they're just like there'll be like two rival groups just fighting for dominance on that little knife game. Like, it would just be funny as hell, and also like, very intriguing. I think it would be really cool to have stuff like that. And probably one of the most dreaded words that any New World person on Reddit probably doesn't want to hear: mounts. I would love to see mounts. I know this is like a 50-50 thing. There's people that love it, and then there's people that hate it. It seems like for the most part, PvPers are the ones that are like, no, we don't want mounts. But at the same time, why is it such a big deal? Because if they added in mounts along with having mounted combat, it would even out the playing field right there. Like, I remember when Age of Conan had the whole mounted combat thing. I was super excited because it was like one of the first MMOs, probably not the very first, but it was one of the first MMOs that I was aware of that had mounted combat. And it didn't work that well, but at least it gave you some kind of reason to get on your mount and actually chase people down, to knock them off their horse so that you can be able to actually fight on the spot. And that was like the coolest thing about it. So if they implemented the mounting system right in this game, it could work out really well in PvP. But I'm mainly thinking about the PvE side of mounts. And the coolest thing that I absolutely loved about Black Desert Online was, I know I'm mentioning that a lot, but there's a reason for this, especially with the way mounts were treated in Black Desert Online. It was so goddamn good. It was like mounts were actually a part of the leveling process. Like, they had their own levels, they had their own tiers of types of horses that you can go out, you can catch them, you can train them, you can breed them. You could even use them on a chariot thing and then like take supplies from one town to another, basically doing Amazon delivery service in Black Desert Online, and these are the type of things that I'm hoping comes over to New World, especially since this is made by Amazon, a company that is focused around shipping items from one town to another, like in real life. So it would be nice to have this kind of thing in the game too. Like, imagine the extra layer of just like economy that you can bring to the game, especially since this game already has the whole like auction houses are tied to each town. I was doing this during the beta, by the way. I scoped out the market and I would go to one town, see that the prices are real low on a certain type of material. I'll buy out all the material. I'll go to a different town and then sell the stuff over there in that town. So I was already kind of doing that delivery service within New World. So it would be nice to have a system that makes it a little bit more streamlined, to have like extra mini game gameplay of taking your horse and riding it over to the next town to be able to sell your stuff. Like, I think that would be so cool. Not to mention the idea I was mentioning earlier, the PvP aspect of that. Like, if you flag yourself, maybe you can get like extra rewards for delivering items from one town to another. So getting on your horse, riding over to the next town, and then you're flagged during that. So that could cause you to get killed and then get all your stuff stolen. Like stuff like that would add extra incentive to PvP as well. So I'm thinking about both lines of the spectrum here. And I think it would be a lot of fun to have systems like this. Here's another thing that is most likely going to be happening further down the line, and it's more weapon options. Like daggers, great sword, which is my personal favorite. I would love to see great sword. Different gauntlets, which there already been talk about this whole void gauntlet. So that's something that's down the pipeline. Maybe even earth, wind, fire, do some avatar type shit. It would also be cool to see like other weapon combination options. Like, let's say like if you wanted to do like a pistol on one hand and a dagger on the other, or maybe doing dual wielding daggers or dual wielding pistols or just one pistol, you know, like those different kind of combinations would be really awesome to see. I kind of wish that New World was similar to Guild Wars 2 with that aspect, because Guild Wars 2 did a good job with the combining of different types of weapons. Because you didn't have to level up one specific type like the way it is in New World. You just literally had one weapon and then you combine it with a different type of weapon. And then that's how you like plan your builds together. So I'm hoping further down the line we'll see something like that. But it just kind of seems like Amazon made it so that it's like hardwired in their system that they have like this set thing where it's like sword and shield is sword and shield, and that's the thing, you know? So we'll see how it is going down in the future of this. But anyway, that's all I could really think of with this whole thing. I know this is all just kind of theory crafting and just like dreaming. You know, probably most of these things won't even happen in this game. But anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't. And I will see you guys next week with some New World. We're almost there. All right. Later, guys.